God's Kingdom Rules. Just got this in the mail. Thank you, Avery, very much for sending this to me. And by this, I can expose the Watchtower even more. This is the newest book from the Watchtower Society, which was released at the convention 2014. And here's proof. God's Kingdom Rules. The book is the property of a brainwashed person. I'll leave that blank for now. Okay, there's a letter from the governing body. Maybe I'll read that in this video. There are 7 chapters. Let your kingdom come. The kingdom is born in heaven. Kingdom of truth, dispensing spiritual food. Jehovah reveals his purpose. Jehovah exalts his name. The king shines light on the kingdom. All kinds of light. Kingdom preaching, spreading the good news worldwide. People who preach, ministers offer themselves willingly. Methods of preaching, using every means to reach people. Tools for preaching, producing literature for the worldwide field. Results of preaching, the fields are white for harvesting. Kingdom standards, seeking God's righteousness. A king refines his people spiritually. Moral refinements, reflecting God's holiness. Organized to serve the God of peace. Kingdom conquests, legally establishing the good news. Kingdom preachers take their case to court, loyally supporting God's government and no other, fighting for freedom to worship. Kingdom education, training servants of the king. Meeting together for worship, training ministers of the kingdom. Kingdom support, building for worship and providing relief. How kingdom activities are financed. Building work that honors Jehovah. The ministry of relief. And 7, kingdom promises, making all things new. God's kingdom removes its enemies. The kingdom carries out God's will on earth. Kingdom, kingdom, kingdom. So I already took a quick glance through this book, and maybe I could do videos on this a chapter at a time, but I'll just quickly flip through the book. And some of what I read so far was on the first letter and their explanation about what the generation means, overlapping people from another generation, and that's supposed to be a generation, which will change again, I'm sure, in the future. Brother Russell and his close associates champion Bible truths. Speaking of Bible truths, I didn't see anything regarding the Great Pyramid of Giza, and that was his Bible truth back in those days, when the Bible students were around and kicked off the Watchtower Society. And this is their old book, Jehovah's Witnesses Proclaimers of God's Kingdom, with their history. And look how thick it is compared to this new one. So you can see how much they cut out. And of course they didn't have anything in here so far, what I've seen, about Beth Surim, or them believing that Jehovah resides in Alcyon in the Pleiades constellation. I haven't seen the winged sun disk in here, occult symbols such as that. I have seen the cross and crown. Well, here's a small indication of a pyramid on the wagon there. You can see to the left of the guy's head there. And that's about it when it comes to images. But this is mainly for Jehovah's Witnesses' eyes only. They won't be passing this around to the doors. Brother Rutherford delivers a stirring discourse at a convention just months after his release from prison. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that his imprisonment with 7 other of his brothers fulfilled prophecies in Revelation in 1919. And that's the truth. And they still believe it according to their latest here. They're going to have to come up with a new Revelation book if they change. Hopefully my camera can pick up this. It's kind of hard to fit in. The birth of the kingdom. So it goes through the dates here. And if I do these chapters in different videos, I'll get into it in more detail. Jehovah reveals his purpose. Jehovah progressively reveals his purpose. New light. The New World Translation of the Christian Greek Scriptures was released at the 1950 Theocracies Increase Assembly, Yankee Stadium, New York. And their Bible has gone through some changes since then. The meaning of God's name. Tetragrammaton, which cannot be pronounced. They choose to use the name Jehovah, but recognize that Yahweh is more accurate. Don't ask me why they don't use Yahweh, because they claim to speak the truth. Different watchtowers using the name Jehovah. A powerful reason to preach. Well, it depends on what gospel you have, first of all. The king shines light on the kingdom. Well, it isn't Jesus. The year 1914 marked the beginning of the harvest season. Convention in Washington, D.C. Here's the big boss. Brother Rutherford could not foresee how numerous the great crowd would become. And they're all using their canes, just like Rutherford had. It was the thing back then. It was their style. And as you can see on the outside, brothers are forming a line so Rutherford can walk through the middle, all proud and haughty and mighty. The great crowd is constantly growing in number. What a privilege it is to share the Bible's hope of everlasting life by placing magazines and books with people about a different type of gospel. What the Bible really doesn't teach. People who preach, ministers offer themselves willingly. The 1922 Cedar Point, Ohio Convention, a banner reading, "Advertise the King and Kingdom," was unfurled above the platform. And the camera can't exactly pick up just under the stage, but there's the cross and crown, and this soldier facing to the left. And of course the 2 American flags on the outsides here. One there and one there. The faithful will be volunteers. Interesting title. Photodrama projection booth. Glass slides. What is interesting here says during 1914 the photodrama was shown in packed auditoriums, and those two pillars beside the word daily are Masonic. What else could it be? Terrestrial and celestial planets above the pillars, Boaz and Jacob. And that's what Masons used in those days. Not kidding. Russell also used the winged sun disk on his books, Studies in the Scriptures, Cross and Crown, and those are Masonic. And the Knights Templar also use the watchtower as a symbol. Programs on WBBR. You'd think if they had a radio station, they would spread their message a lot further than what they've been doing in the past. But if I do chapter by chapter video, maybe I'll get into that further. And proclaiming their website, which they used to demonize. They used to demonize the internet so much when I was growing up in this cult. But now the internet is being preached. Different methods here of preaching, tools for preaching, and how they produce their literature. 670 tongues, but that doesn't mean that's in Bible translations. That's in their magazine translations. Manufacturing phonographs and sound equipment in Toronto, Canada, to hear Rutherford blab at the Doors with his records. By 1940, more than 90 different recorded talks were available, and over 1 million records have been made. You can find these items on eBay, but they can be quite pricey at times. World records for publications. All Bible translations in whole or in part, combined. King James Version, NIV, I do not trust that Bible. New World Translation, never trust that one. And other books. What does the Bible really teach? 201 million. That's too bad. And it goes into magazines. Worldwide increase. And talk about some experiences over here. How 2 tracks touched 2 hearts in the Amazon. Kingdom Standards, Seeking God's Righteousness. The Brooklyn Bethel family celebrated its last Christmas in 1926. I did a video recently on Norman and Christmas, and Fred Franz is talking in a speech in that video. You can check it out to see how Christmas ended and how Norman actually left the Watchtower Society after. They were against him, as he was against Christmas at that time, and made him sit against the wall while they celebrated Christmas. And then finally, the last Christmas was celebrated at Brooklyn Bethel 1926. And that's Brother Richard H. Barber, circled at left, you say here. Delivered a powerful radio discourse on the subject of Christmas. The content of that discourse was published in The Golden Age, of December 12, 1928, under the title Christmas, Its Origin and Purpose. And they're talking about the cross and crown here, so they actually show that. And if you do your research, any organization that ever used this had Freemason origins. Christian Science, Knights Templar, Watchtower Society is questionable. The Royal Black Order, Knights Templars. So if you want to do your research on that, you can. So progressively enlightened about the use of the cross, and they're talking about birthdays and Christmas and Valentine's Day. Moral refinements reflecting God's holiness. Throughout the years. Talking about tobacco here even. We cannot imagine our Lord reeking with the fumes of tobacco while putting into his mouth anything defiling. And, of course, getting into blood. More and more hospitals offer non-blood management, and some even regard it as the highest standard of medical care. This religion is starting to look a lot like the Seventh-day Adventists for some reason to me, because Seventh-day Adventists is a very wealthy organization, and I believe they have their own hospitals and possibly schools for their children. And the Watchtower Society is probably well on their way to becoming an organization as wealthy as them. Those are just my opinions. We humbly accepted correction. Basically what that means is when you start questioning the Watchtower Society, if you don't obey, if you don't submit to what the elders say, you'll be booted. But if you just shut up, keep quiet, and act stupid, then you're a humble one. How the manner of oversight improved. And there's a cross and crown on that podium there. We voted for the elders by raising the right hand. Then a brother walked up the aisle counting the votes. So yes, Jehovah's Witnesses vote. Only within their congregations. Kingdom Ministry School, 1966 in the Philippines. Fruitful weekly visits. How the governing body cares for kingdom interests. I can't remember who, but someone made a video showing this picture, and yeah, he said that this is totally a setup. This is all phony expressions and smiles, as the newest governing body member there is pretending to say something, and they're all smiling in agreement. Sorry, that's not the new... That's the new guy. But it's phony, and that book there, in blue, on the table, may be a governing body guidebook. Not sure. It's either a book or a folder. Can't quite make it up. And they have their version of a Bible and laptops. Then with the governing body, they have their different committees underneath them. Coordinators, personnel, publishing, service committees, teaching, writing committees. It's like a pyramid scheme. And And then, of course, the Watchtower Society has their own lawyers. The apostles rejoiced because they had been counted worthy to be dishonored in behalf of his name. But I'm sure they never had lawyers protecting pedophiles and refusing blood transfusions for precious lives. Okay, legal victories. Noteworthy high court victories that advanced kingdom preaching. What about all the court cases that they lost? I don't think they'll ever talk about the negative sides where they had to pay out money to victims of pedophiles inside this spiritual paradise. Loyally supporting God's government and no other. God's government is actually the Watchtower Kingdom. I learned to appreciate that God's people were to be at peace with everyone, even amid threats of war. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't the only so-called Christians that are neutral when it comes to war. Jehovah's Witnesses refuse to join in nationalistic ceremonies. But if you're caught, stuck, then some Jehovah's Witnesses do pledge allegiance to the government. And I can't remember where, but the governing body, I think it was Nathan Knorr, pledged allegiance to America for a document. I'm not lying, I wouldn't lie. Freedom to choose medical treatment in harmony with our beliefs. And have you filled out your own medical directive? And this is another big sign of being in a cult. Because if you're a Christian believing in Christ alone, you won't be filling out blood forms under an organization that have their own liaison committees, lawyers. Freedom to raise children according to Jehovah's standards. Many courts have ruled in favor of custody rights of Christian parents. No, I don't have much to say about that right now. Kingdom education, training servants of the king. And their meetings. It's interesting, they have Jesus' disciples met together to strengthen and encourage one another. This would be Thomas when he was doubting that Jesus was raised from the dead, and he said, I need to see the holes of the nails of Jesus. And here he is. And in John chapter 20, Thomas said, my Lord and my God. He didn't say my Lord and, oh, my little God. And Jesus said that. Family worship. So this has changed from the book study that we had on Tuesday night at our house when I was growing up and in my teens. And the book study was supposed to be a place where all the members would meet when Armageddon came, and the elders would tell us what to do. But no, that's no longer around. So family worship is just like what Mormons do. It's kind of like copying what they have done. Annual gatherings that unite God's people with their green Bibles. Theocratic Ministry School designed. And here are the Psalm books. This one from 1966 and 1984 are the ones that I was raised up on. I was born in 78. Oh, that's another occult symbol. That's an iron cross of the Templars. That same cross was on Russell's yeah, it was his first Bethel house. That was on the top of that building, near the top at the gable. And then he had the red cross on top of the actual building on the roof, which is yet again Knights Templar cross. And on the windows was painted a cross and crown symbol with the green wreath around it. Since the 1st century CE, Christians have gathered together annually to observe the memorial of Christ's death. And that's all they do is observe. The main Jehovah's Witness rank and file do not partake of the emblems, blood being the wine and the bread being the body of Jesus, because they don't believe they are going to heaven. More training ministers of the kingdom. School of Gilead, where the super brainwashed go and dig into the New World Translation. Special responsibilities, ministerial training school, schools that train kingdom ministers, theocratic ministry school, and look, they have a child there giving a talk on the stool. Jehovah's Witnesses do this with many of the children. I think my first talk was at age 9, and I'm the shyest person in the world. I don't know how I got through it. Theocratic Ministry School, School for Congregation Elders, Pioneer School, where you receive your Illuminators book, Bethel Entrance School, School for Kingdom Evangelizers, and the hierarchy just keeps spreading out down towards the regular publishers. Watchtower Bible School of Gilead, Kingdom Ministry School, School for Traveling Overseers and their wives, School for Branch Committee members and their wives. Yes, it is very organized. Organized religion. And everything is by the book. By the book. Or books. Not the Bible. Kingdom support, billing for worship, and providing relief. Building. The Watchtower Society is a printing company and a construction company. Genius. How kingdom activities are financed. It will never beg nor petition men for support. We'll just write you letters and tell you how we're doing things. Let each one do just as he has resolved in his heart after hearing the letter. And I don't know if you've noticed, but every time there's a contribution box in their literature, there is a child putting money inside every single time. Either that or an elderly person. Our young ones in Mozambique also love to give. Yeah, like that isn't phony. How money is received. Where do our donations go? this is interesting here. Local congregation operating expenses, upkeep of the Kingdom Hall, and congregation resolutions. Footnote: wherever they gather for worship, Jehovah's Witnesses have arrangements in place for making contributions, but the specifics may vary somewhat from one land to another. Construction of Kingdom Halls, disaster relief, special full-time servants such as the traveling overseers, special pioneers, missionaries, international and Kingdom Hall construction personnel, Bethelites, branch and translation offices, conventions, the theocratic schools, ways to donate. Contribution boxes, direct donations made by cash, check, or electronically, such as through jw.org. Estates, non-cash donations, trusts, and annuities. Interesting. We all knew that before. You can send in your jewelry, life insurance, everything. That's the truth. Building work that honors Jehovah. Yeah, well, that's what they wish. The New Light Church. What's this? Bible students shown in front of the New Light Church. Branch construction, adjusting to changing needs. Building in lands with limited resources. Building kingdom halls in lands with limited resources present unique challenges. The Ministry of Relief. And just about near the end here. Preparation for a disaster. The governing body has directed that all branches worldwide give guidelines to congregation elders and traveling overseers as to how to prepare for and deal with disasters. For example, even before a disaster occurs, the elders need to make sure that they have up-to-date contact information for each congregation member. So everyone is accounted for because they are a super organized cult. And pretty soon, all of them will take the mark of the beast. No, I'm just kidding. But you never know. An added tool for relief workers. It's a brochure from June 2013. I'm sure you can find the download in PDF online, like many of their books. And you can't go without having a hard hat in one of Watchtower's books. Volunteers around the world bring relief. Jehovah's Witnesses take care of their own. And to give a good witness, sometimes they help out with non-witnesses. If they're able to place a book with them, then they feel they've been blessed. Picture of paradise. Kingdom promises making all things new. God's kingdom removes its enemies. Precursor of sudden destruction. The Great Tribulation begins. Cutting short the days. And then here's a chart what the near future holds. And it's interesting here. I don't know if many of you know, but gathering to heaven of the remaining anointed ones. In the old Revelation book, the climax book, they taught once upon a time that if there were anointed ones still alive after Armageddon and living in the paradise, they would live out their lives until they die naturally. But now it's no longer like that. They will be raptured before Armageddon. finale of the Great Tribulation, Armageddon. Events leading up to Armageddon. The grand finale. The kingdom carries out God's will on earth. So there is a bit of material to look at here. And a picture of Kingdom Hall. This is your generic Kingdom Hall with your seats. And they threw in some worldly people here. This guy has jeans. So does that guy. He's probably supposed to be a study. I was going to say disfellowship, but he would be wearing a suit probably if he was disfellowshipped, coming back, trying to regain favor in their God's eyes, which would take about a year or two before he's forgiven, according to the Watchtower elders. Even when he's totally repentant. It's not quite the prodigal son account in the Bible. And we're baking bread in the new paradise, and everybody's happy until 1,000 years later, and then Satan's let out again, and then they have to suffer again, according to Jehovah's Witnesses. These people are not born again. They have not come to Jesus, and they believe that the anointed ones at this time are in heaven. Only 144,000 of them since the death of Jesus. So that includes Jehovah's Witnesses and the disciples of Jesus and everyone that's been born again ever since. Does not compute. So that was just a little summary. They even have a quick response code to take you to jw.org. So I think that'll be all for now. Maybe what I'll do is read the letter for you, like I said in the beginning. A letter from the governing body. Dear fellow Kingdom publisher, picture yourself as a member of the Brooklyn Bethel family on Friday morning, October 2nd, 1914. You are seated at your usual place at the breakfast table, awaiting the arrival of Brother C.T. Russell. Suddenly the door to the dining room opens and Brother Russell appears. He pauses for a moment, as is his custom, and greets the Bethel family with a cheery, "Good morning, all." But then, instead of immediately taking his place at the head of the table, he claps his hands and makes a thrilling announcement. "The Gentile times have ended. Their kings have had their day." You can hardly contain your joy. You have been looking forward to this moment for a long time. Along with the rest of the Bethel family, you greet this exciting news with sustained, enthusiastic applause. All 10 of them. Many decades have passed since Brother Russell made that electrifying statement. What has the kingdom accomplished since then? Oh, a great deal of lies. Through the kingdom arrangement, Jehovah has been progressively refining and training his people from just a few thousand in 1914 to more than 7.5 million today. How many ways have you personally benefited from such training? So 7.5 million doesn't quite fit the city of London. So Jehovah's Witnesses have a far ways to go with their preaching of their gospel. Galatians chapter 1. Okay, today we often hear our brothers say Jehovah's celestial chariot is on the move, and that is true. However, the fact is that since 1914, the celestial chariot depicting the invisible part of Jehovah's organization has always been on the move, as a careful reading of this publication will demonstrate. With a view to getting the good news preached worldwide, Kingdom publishers have used a variety of innovative methods, including newspapers, information marches, picture presentations, testimony cards, phonographs, radio, and even the internet. With Jehovah's blessing on the work, we are now able to publish our attractive Bible literature in more than 670 languages and to offer it to everyone without charge. Self-sacrificing volunteers assist in the construction of kingdom halls, assembly halls, branch facilities, both in prosperous lands and in lands with limited resources. And when disaster strikes, loving brothers and sisters rush to the aid of those in the affected areas, proving that they are born for times of distress. It's too bad they weren't born again. At times, the clergy and other opposers frame trouble in the name of the law, but it is faith-strengthening to see how, time and again, their misguided efforts have turned out to be for the advancement of the good news. Psalms 94:20, Philippians 1:12. It is an honor for us to be associated with you, our fellow domestics, including the anointed. Please know that we love all of you very much. It is our prayer that the contents of this publication will help you to appreciate your spiritual heritage as never before, even though we cut half of the history out, plus more. With every good wish, we are your leaders, your brothers, governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses.